Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the greatest podcast of all time, the Justice is Here podcast. We're going to have so much fun in this podcast. We hope you all tune in each Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before I let my guest introduce himself, I am going to pay some bills. So, first of all, this, of course, is a continuation of the Cornel West campaign. So if you want some more information about the Justice for All Party, please make your way over to www.cornelwest2024.com. If you would like to donate, yes, the campaign is still taking donations. So you can make your $5. I'm challenging people to make a $5 donation to well, I will say at that website right there. There are some things that need to be tied up, and certainly the campaign can use contributions up to the limit of $3,300. So remember, you can always donate. Please subscribe. Now, normally I used to didn't do this, and the old Cornel West show, or no, congratulations to Dr. Cornel West, 47, President of the United States. I never asked people to subscribe. I just figured they would come natural. Well, they're not. We finally got past 300, but now our goal is 1,000. So hit that, smash that, obliterate that subscribe button. Definitely do that. As Rude, by the way, MC said, hit that like button on the way in. You can also help us by, of course, help us with our 35 likes and 15 shares. So we ask everybody that's watching this now to like it. And then we want 35 likes, 15 shares. So we need 15 of you to share this to all your frenemies, enemies, cousins, nieces, nephews, dog lovers, cat lovers. We need that. So help us to do that. And that is it. And so before I let this person introduce himself, I got to make this joke. So Israel told me, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, because I've been trying to get Israel on this show like a long time. They always tell me, no, it's not going to happen. See what happens? Now he's here. So, sir, you may go ahead
Hello.
and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Sister Tracy. My name is Israel Lee Armstead. I served as a volunteer on the campaign and then eventually as transitional campaign manager now, and then helping in whatever ways I can to steer the Justice for All party. So uh, happy to be here with you, Tracy. And yeah, Tracy did. She's been trying to get me on the show for a while, but I told her I don't do public appearances, which I don't. But hey, there's a time for everything. So this debut and maybe final appearance here on the Tracy Carlson Justice is Now show.
And we want to invite everybody who's watching live. I see a few people join us live. Put your comments in the comment section. I plan on asking a whole series of questions. And I don't want to give away who's going to be here the third Saturday, but his name is in the website that I just put up at the beginning. Not to just say who it is, but you'll figure it out. But my first question is, of course, we got to take this all the way back to what, 2 years ago now?
Yeah,
It's been that long. Oh my
2023.
goodness, time. What made you think, you know what? I'm tired of the two-party system. It's making me sick. It's not doing anything. I'm going to go vote third party, and I'm going to support Dr. West and Dr. Abdullah.
I think those decisions came separately. I think I was already a registered independent by the time Dr. West announced. I sort of given up on the. I don't even use duopoly now. I use uniparty. But I just the red tape, the kabuki theater just didn't make sense to me. And so I was really one of those folks who was more so disengaged in the political process, although I had been a student and a fan of politics the entirety of my life. So um, I've been on this search, looking at the Black freedom movement and seeing the organizing skills of Brother X and the mobilizing skills of Dr. King, and the self-defense focus of Dr. Huey P. Newton, and just read Kwame Ture and Marcus Garvey, and just really sort of a deep study, W.E.B., James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni, countless names. But for me, the person who was here and around that sort of uh, not necessarily echoed those voices, but amplified those voices, highlighted those voices, was Dr. West. And so part of that study was a deep dive into his body of work, his books, his interviews, and just a deep connection with his connection to that movement that my family had always been a part of, even though I'd sort of run away and become a corporate warrior, resisting the call to service. But hey, just like I said, I wouldn't be on a podcast. Here I am. So service has a way of finding you, even when you're trying to run from it. So, just to that point, seeing Dr. West was running for president, that was an easy decision for me. I tell people all the time that it was about personality in person. It was not policy, but I decided it was Dr. West. So, um, as my wife would say, on GP, um, I was down to support him, and yeah, the rest, as we say, is history. So,
And, once the campaign was over, for me, I don't know what I was thinking, but it was as though election morning, I woke up and said, it's not going to happen.
mm,
Um, I don't know why I didn't realize that earlier, because we know this campaign experienced some tremendous barriers that were put in front of us that should not have been put in front of us. But it's as though my heart couldn't accept it. Like my mind knew it, but my heart couldn't accept it. Like I wanted Dr. West to be president so bad. One, so I could laugh in my friend's face and say, "Ha ha, I told y'all." And then second, on a serious point, the type of changes that he was talking about, I read the platform and there's absolutely nothing that I disagree with. There's not, well, he could have said this or did that. It's like every single thing I agree with. And it was so disheartening for me.
mm.
Talk about that for just a few moments. And maybe you didn't feel that way, but I just felt like, America, you got it wrong.
No, I felt that way, but I think I kind of anticipated that beforehand. Not that I ever gave up hope. I always held out hope that we can do whatever it is that we really together collectively strive to do. But it was a surreal moment, the day after the election. I guess what was the comfort was that Dr. West himself had always made it clear that this was a moment in a movement, that this was from the time I joined the campaign as a volunteer, even joining on staff, moving into management, something that was always drilled into our minds that, with everything that we did, nothing was limited by November 5th and the results thereof, irrespective of how they went, was that we would collectively continue moving. And we did. November 6th, November 7th, November 8th. And, to now we have been steadily moving to build a party to continue a legacy move built on that work from the campaign itself. So, and then, to Dr. West's point, oftentimes there's very little that the person who is the face or the head of empire can do to actually change the machine. Um, but what we can do collectively to apply pressure to empire, what we can do collectively to ensure that those policies um, are in the ears of all of our elected officials and at all of our collective meetings, and something that we're pushing for on and off the ballot. I think we have a way to exponentially like increase our effect in lieu of just the small confines of presidential electoral politics.
That's a good point, and I wish I had realized that sooner, because literally, like election morning, I woke up and said, "Dang on it," because I have this eternal hope springs eternal. And for me, especially with the previous podcast of mine, the congratulations to Cornel West 47 president, blah, blah, blah podcast. I'm saying blah, 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 because the name is too long. I was ready to just wrap it up. If I'm being 100% honest, I'm just like, because the process of ballot access, I don't know how I made it through. I literally don't know how I made it through. So I'm like, I've did what I can. I've done everything I can do. Let's end this. And then certain people who were on the in comment section said, no, you need to keep this going. You need to keep this going. And I'm like, well what, how? Because I couldn't think about the way I wanted it until the party was announced. And this is what I want to get to. When was it a Dr. West decision to start the Justice for All Party? I know he did it for ballot access, but to continue that work, was that his decision or was that a collective decision?
I think that original idea, if the history that I know serves correct, was born out of Professor Anahita Moldovis West's brain. That initially the Justice for All Party um, was a brainchild, an idea that she had during the campaign time, which of course Dr. West um, fully agreed to, and then collectively as a group it was always the mindset once we decided that there would be a party, aside from the tactical aspects of ballot access, that we would continue that party. And then also too, it was built out of what we kept hearing from our volunteers and from the group, that I won't mention any names, but that they had been a part of other, let's say, leftist, for lack of a better term, movements, and that at the end of those movements, or the end of the electoral politics portions of those movements, even when the person did succeed into office, they sort of just disbanded those groups, broke those groups apart, and so that collective power and community to move change was never really amplified and never really capitalized on. And so we wanted to make sure that, we weren't just talking about making change, for that we were moving forward into the future with doing the things necessary to implement those changes.
And I do want you to speak about what's going on right now in terms of um, forming that party. What's going on now, and what should we expect within the next 6 to 7 months?
So first thing, I think next week I'm excited for your next guest, Mike, who served as our ballot access attorney, because he'll be able to dig into a lot of those battles you were talking about, from the ballot access standpoint, and how tough that was. And it's designed that way, right? So like, it's purposely entrenched, it's made so that at the end of that battle, whether you have won or lost, that you don't want to make that fight anymore. It's made so that you have to be really committed to push past and go through all the hoops and the loops necessary to be able to make your collective voice heard. And that's why so little people do it, and that's why there's so little power behind the movements that do, because it does take such a commitment. But I guess I'm always impassioned by the fact that I understand that the uniparty, the duopoly, does that on purpose. They're entrenching their power purposefully. They want to deter you. They want you to be defeated. They want you not to try. They want you to say that, oh, it's too difficult, it's too hard, we can't do it, there's no need, and even not going towards it. So to that point, we are currently what's called, designated by the FEC, an unqualified political third party, the Justice for All National Party, that is. Um, right now, we are seating a steering committee to form what will be the governing national party committee, for that party, in order to qualify, or in order to be designated, rather, or change our designation to a qualified political party. It's required that we run federal candidates in at least 5 to 6 jurisdictions, and about 2.25 candidates per jurisdiction, or 12 to 14 and then raise a total of $5,000 per candidate. And then we would carry the same party status as the Democrats, the Greens, the Republicans, or whoever else. So right now we're in the process of seating the steering committee that ultimately will form the rules, decide uh, the various delegations, how people are seated to the national party, how those votes are cast. And then by this summer, we hope to have our convention in keeping with political season so that uh, we can continue to move on track. So right now that we had a meeting today with discussing the rules and how it is to ultimately make those decisions, and that conversation will continue into next week, and we'll just iteratively build, one step by step, the what sometimes is the messy buildings of democracy.
And do you see the party as well, I'll frame my question this way. So in the uniparty system, it's top-down management. The top says, this is the agenda, this is what you're going to be for, this is who we endorse, you endorse who we tell you to endorse. Or do you see it as a bottoms up where the participants have a say, no, this is what we want to pursue, and this is what we want to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been one of the biggest things. Mike and I have been chairing the meetings, but the biggest thing is always about moving that into the deliberative body. And that's one of the biggest pivots that you make when you go from campaign to party. So in a campaign, just because of messaging and the way things are run, it's very top down, and that this is the message, this is the branding, this is, what the campaign is doing. This is very specific voice. Um, when there's a deliberative body, I've said this to many people because they keep asking me about, what will the rules be? How will it be composed? And I give them the same answer. It will be decided in that room. It'll be decided by those people who are representing their various state and regions in that room. To that point, the collective voice is the authority. It is that collective voice that will ultimately make all of the decisions about the party. So there's no one that'll be dictating orders to that group, at least in the ideal world. That is our hope.
Yep, and we have some comments that I'm going to get to right now.
Yes.
Rue, by the way, says, when Florida did a rug pull with his ballot, I was floored. We all remember Florida and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is still, I won't even travel to the state of Pennsylvania. That's how petty I keep my anger with them. I'm just like, no, you don't need. I'm cheering. If I didn't hate the Kansas City Chiefs so much, I would cheer against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. That's how petty it is. Hello, cousin Nelson. Donald Trump is on a rampage, and we need the truth, justice, and love party agenda now more than ever. Absolutely.
Here.
I do want to play devil advocate with my next question. Why not coalesce with parties like the PSL party and the Green Party?
Without naming parties, right? Let's just say
I'm using them as examples, but any of those.
No, I know. I just want to say from the macro aspect, that's part of the mindset. So really sitting the steering committee will then allow us to have a table to invite first and foremost those third parties that gave us ballot access. Also those parties that were formed during the time of the campaign. So there'll be invitations there too. Now, when it comes to the bigger, larger organizations, one, I'm not sure because I know that there's some laws that prevent coordination or something like that between parties. But it is about setting our own path and starting our own thing and bringing those who are like-minded with us. And we were friendly towards the end, especially with the PSL. I think we did some push some Claudia locations where we weren't on the ballot, and vice versa towards the end of the campaign. And then, many of the people who are a part of our organization have been connected with the Greens, and some great, lots of great advocates for the Greens. But we would, we'd stand our own ground, we'd hold our own place, so that any affiliation or friendship would be from mutual positions of strength and offering in lieu of looking to an organization to make us a subsidiary thereof, or take us as an umbrella, as a wing or a caucus. We will stand on our own as a party.
Absolutely. And I'm glad I asked you that question, because I know somebody's going to ask that question.
Mhm.
What, some people feel like all the third parties just need to coalesce behind one candidate. And my argument has always been, you can't take 350 million Americans and just split them between two or three parties. It just can't work that way. We have too many diverse opinions, too many diverse political stands. You can't do that. I feel like we need hundreds of political parties. Personally, that's the way I feel. But they feel like, what, we should just come together and then run against it. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. The uniparty doesn't let it work like that. They just don't. Another thing I wanted to talk about, which, and for to be 100% transparent to my audience members, I was at the meeting this afternoon, and I was at the one last week, just so you all know. One of the things I didn't ask, because I'm an observer, not on the steering committee, is mutual aid. Mutual aid is rarely talked about. And with this incoming administration, I feel like we're going to really need it. Because I know in Indiana, I call him the Trump of Indiana. Our governor, Governor Brom, is talking about making Medicaid eligibility for 3 years, making IPS a charter school, taking money away from our only Black college in the entire state. And those things are going to hurt people in terms of financial, like access to finances, etc. What type of mutual aid, or will the party have mutual aid as a part of its platform, or will that just kind of be up to each of the individual states?
I would hope that in whatever way is appropriate, that can be done. I know there's a limitation to what the national party can spend on and how it is connected to federal politics only. But that's not to say that we aren't and won't be friendly with 501c3 and fours and other NGOs, um, and what folks can do collectively in their states based on their laws there. But I couldn't dictate that. I would hope so. I agree with you. I think we're going to need a lot more community-based services. Also think that we should just start, poor and working class folks in general should start circular economies that are self-sustaining. I know for Black community alone, there's like $1.8 trillion that's circulated through Black Americans. And it's like the eighth largest economy in the world, or something to that extent. And what happens if you can start concentrating the light of that power into laser? So I served as the national director of fundraising during the campaign. So I got to see intimately, what it is to rely on the people giving the most that they can from a grassroots standpoint, and how there are ways, and we even had folks who suffered tragedies during the campaign. And we would collectively give individually, I should say. But I would love to find ways that we can uh, supply legal aid, mutual aid funds. We want to service and support and provide those things that typically are not available to grassroots organizations, just because it costs so many high-powered lawyers and professionals to get these things done, and having access to so many friends of the campaign. We want to make all of those, even educational initiatives, available.
And I think what's important to say about that, and thank you for that response, is, again, it's so important. If I told people what my gas bill is right now, you'll be like, how are you even, like, not
Yeah,
crying?
yeah.
And there's many Americans that are in the same exact position, not just me, because where there's a will, there's going to be a way, and my faith is secured, so I know I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
But a
I've never
lot
seen the righteous forsaken, nor its
taken
seed begging
begging
bread.
bread,
Come on.
exactly. But a lot of people don't feel that, right? And I think
Yes.
that was part of Trump winning, because people, they kept telling us we created these many jobs and the economy is doing great. But I didn't feel it. I don't know what your financial circumstances are, but I know I didn't feel it. I felt like I was on struggle street. I was
Oh,
just living from paycheck to paycheck. And I wonder, as great as the platform is that you can find on CornellWest2024.com, what work is going to
backslash
take?
platform.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, yes, thank you for mentioning that. I forgot the backslash platform. As great as the platform is, what type of work do you see, or do you want to see, to expand that and to speak to a group that I think was very much forgotten this past election, was the working poor?
So several things. We had an idea during the campaign of having advisory councils, which I'm hoping to implement now. I would like them to be based on each one of those policy pillars, be it transformative justice or economic justice, Black maternal justice, child justice, elder justice. I think we have about 17, if my memory serves me correct, right now. So um, that is the hope, to be able to get the minds of the folks who work on these issues day in and day out, the activists, the scholars, the people who are most connected, including those who are most affected, um, and creating sort of a think tank to inform on those policies, yes, but also to ensure that we have so many of these groups um, around the world. I'm sorry, not around the world, but around the world, yes, but around the country, that are working towards good in the world. The stories don't get talked about, but we all know of little 501c3s and C4s that are advocating and doing things. And I just imagine a world where these resources are connected, decentralized, so that they are not necessarily dependent upon one another, but that they can share where they can resources of time, talent, and treasure. And the same thing for third parties, like, maybe we agree during presidential elections, whatever, we go our separate ways, but maybe for the down ballot, we can challenge the duopoly where they're vulnerable, and put our forces behind a candidate who might be PSL or Green or JFA or whomever, but is in a place where they can challenge whoever the establishment candidate is, and start to move third party folks into real power. So there's a host of ways to do this, but I think one of the main things we need to do is figure out how we can amplify the resources that we have now. How do we collect our lights into lasers like this?
Okay, so Israel disappeared there. So while he's getting himself back on, um, Nelson says something that is important that has been ignored for too long is to help save Social Security by raising or removing FICA cap. It would be great if it was a priority. So I'm going to move that and just wait for him to come back. So, we're having a great discussion. And remember, guys, to put your questions in the comment section. And as soon as Israel gets back, we'll continue this discussion, because I think it's so important that we start to move. We 2026 is right around the corner. 2028 isn't far away. We have to move. Oh, there he is right there.
Sorry about that. I had a phone call come through and it knocked me completely off. So
I was just mentioning to my audience that one of the things that I'm glad to see, and I did mention this to Dr. West when I had him on the show, I'm I'm gonna always mention that. Like always, I'm gonna always mention that. Yes, I got to interview one of my heroes. I just am. I just got always mention it.
And I'm not
But
going to take any credit for having arranged it. So
oh, you did it. It was you and Alex that worked on that because I was like, okay, I don't know what to do anymore. I told my audience, don't even expect it's not going to happen. Don't expect it. Stop asking me about it.
well, I
And
can tell you how much work I did. I told Dr. West about the show and that you wanted him on, and he said I have to meet with my dear sister Tracy. So just
well,
to give you a little insight into the process that how it happened with me, he was more than gracious and happy to join you.
well, I was excited to have him on. But one of the things I did ask him about is 2026 is around the corner.
Hmm.
I mean, it's right up on us. And we have, to be honest, we have some terrible people in audit office. Terrible. Congress is terrible. Listen to me, everybody that's watching. They're terrible. They vote for endless wars. They vote to increase the military's budget. There's a proposal that Nelson mentioned that's going to cut Social Security. Trump is implementing Project 2025. Like he didn't know what it was, but now all of a sudden, yeah, okay, whatever. But
His budget director is like one of the co-authors or
I
something,
know,
right?
but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
nobody believed him. But my whole thing on that, before I get back to it, the Democrats never offered a plan to counteract that. You know, when somebody comes up with a plan and you're opposed to it, it'd be good if you wrote down what you was going to do. That, you know, that's just me offering advice. But we have some terrible people in Congress. We have some terrible people in Congress. We have, I know in Indianapolis, all of our seats are open,
Mm.
all of them. And we've been toying with possibly running a candidate.
Mhm.
Um, what would you say to other Justice for All? I don't know whether we call them affiliates or branches, or what would you say to somebody in North Carolina or Texas or California or Georgia that says, you know what, I think we should run for this office? And then the second part of that question is, would the national party offer like support for that person?
Yeah, I mean that's the entire hope of it, to be able to bully all of those state groups. Like we don't exist without state committees. So like there is what makes the national party is a collection of state committees. And so we need folks like, to your point, in Indiana and Georgia and North Carolina. And we do have groups like Italo and then the guys in North Carolina, and the folks, rather, I should say, in North Carolina, or Patricia in DC and other places across the country. So, um, yeah, right now is getting the steering committee seated so that ultimately those decisions can be made in that room. But if I was talking about what my personal hope, my personal vision would be, yeah, I don't know the mechanics of how it works as well, but even if it was making sure that we're getting into these special elections that will be held for Congress, if that was possible in whatever places. But 2026 midterm, I know there are a few places that have some votes later on this year. I can at times be overly ambitious, at least so I'm told. I don't necessarily ascend to that, but the point of the matter is that, yeah, I want to, if the group can come to a consensus about agreeing to push for these things, yes, and then ultimately to provide that support to individual candidates across the country is our goal, our hope, our purpose. And then the necessity is to run federal candidates, and just from a strategic standpoint, that can be best achieved by running House of Representatives, because then you're just dealing with the district politics in lieu of a statewide race, which changes the numbers dramatically. So, yeah, you have your pragmatic aspect of it, of needing to run those federal candidates in order to achieve qualified status. And then you have just, part of our existence about running candidates who walk under the banner of truth, justice, and love, if you will.
And absolutely. And I see some new people have came on. So if you haven't, Newsflash, you can subscribe to this channel. Like I said, I'm at 320. The goal this year is 1,000. So help me get to my 1,000 so I can get that little, they don't give you a plaque until you reach 1,000,000. But they sent you a little email notice that you hit 1,000. I want to get my email. So hit that subscribe button. But you mentioned something that I always get excited about, and I don't know why. Conventions. I don't know if it's the church in me that gets excited about conventions. Something in me says, "Ooh, I get to meet people." What would be the purpose? Although I think I know the answer to this. What would be the purpose of the convention? I'm gonna throw this out. I hope it's in person, because if I feel like if I do one more Zoom meeting, I'm just gonna strength. I want to meet people in person. Like, I want to touch people and say, "Hey, cousin Nelson, how you doing?"
Well, you're going to hear this as a repeated theme, as I say in all too many meetings now. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the folks in that group who decide what the convention is. But what my hope would it be something hybrid, where we can have something in person, but then also allow for folks who can't make it to be able to join and participate. I'm a part of a few groups that successfully pull that off. Main thing is, once the steering committee is set, there'll probably be a convention committee or events committee, something to that extent. And so I'm sure you'll sit there to help with deciding how that looks. But I'm with you. I'm hoping it's in person. Maybe we'll bring y'all down to Florida.
No, Indianapolis is a cheaper place to have it, because our hotels are cheaper. Our airport is 20 minutes from
It's up
downtown.
to it's up to the people in that
I'm
room.
pushing
So
my
it's
own city. I'm suggesting my own city because it's cheaper.
I know,
Florida,
guys. Miami is nice.
but Miami is expensive and taxes are higher.
Miami.
And I mean, Miami is great. Don't get me wrong. I'll get on the cruise ship.
I'm joking. I don't even get a vote, so this is
Yeah, and I love how you just put me right on that committee. Didn't say, Tracy, would you like to? No, just,
Well, I
well,
mean,
Tracy,
you said you get excited about
I
conventions. I
get
mean,
excited about conventions. I said nothing about planning, sitting there saying, "Oh, who's going to
mm,
speak?" And see, that's different, right? Because when you plan something, you
yeah.
you're moving into territories that are different. That's a whole who's going to speak, what's issues going to be. I'm just talking about showing up in my old school church hat. That's what I'm
Them old
talking about.
school church hat. That's
That's
why I'm
what
so good.
that's what I'm talking about. Um, but I do get excited about that because I've I feel like the people who I've connected to in this campaign, they're like my cousins. Like
Mhm.
they're like everybody's my cousin now. And I really feel like, I just want to meet everybody. I just want to meet everybody and say there's somebody out there that thinks like I'm not in this by myself. That's just my 2 cents. Oh, wait a minute now.
Uh-oh.
Here's one I think is a good one. Um,
Uh-oh. I
I'm
like
not
it.
gonna try to pronounce it because I know I'm going to get it wrong. Um, Says that sounds good. Justice for All convention on a cruise boat, historic event for historic time. Now, a cruise ship, I would. Oh, I'd do a cruise ship in a minute. You can eat all you want. You can just sit in a room. You don't have to get up. Yes, I'm for that. But I want to talk about something else in terms of national organizing. And this is
Mm,
Tracy wants you to suggest this. So every year there is a Medicare for All March.
mhm.
Every single year there has been one. There wasn't one last year per se. I don't know why, but we did not have one in our state. And this year we're going to have ours July the 26th. And the reason we do that is because I want to say LBJ signed the Medicare Act, but I could be wrong. I'm thinking it's LBJ signed the Medicare Act.
Mm.
It's either it wasn't John F. Kennedy, so it's either Nixon or LBJ. One of those two signed it. But One of them signed it. It was in the month of July. But anyway, it's people all around the country showing their support for something that we should already have, which is universal health care.
It was LBJ, July 30th, 1965.
Thank you very much. Yes. So that last Saturday, I can't believe I got that right. Okay. So July the 26th this year, Indiana is sponsoring its own march. Now, this isn't connected to Justice for All Party, but since I'm Justice for All Party, I'll kind of be like, hey, I'm here. I kind of would like other states to do that. And because it's Medicare for all is one of the issues it's my top issue. It's just the top issue that I see. I mean, you have people that are choosing medicine over food, or they have to struggle between the two. Now this may be just Tracy dreaming, but I just throw stuff out to the wall and see what sticks.
Well, no, it's aligned with our healthcare justice policy pillar.
Yes,
As you know,
exactly.
our campaign was very friendly with many from the Medicare for All movement.
Yeah.
Laura Fielding, Amy served as our treasurer. Scott, who lost his son to suicide as a result of insurance being lapsed for like a $20 payment or something to that extent. Edwin De Jesus served as one of the campaign managers. So yeah, it's an issue that's near and dear to our heart. I mean, like I say, unilaterally, I would want us to be a part of all of those movements. I think too, that's where the advisory councils, based on the platform, come into place. So if you have a health justice advisory council and you have folks who are part of the Medicare for All and other health focused movements, then one, those folks who are in that room are already a part of the work that's happening on the ground, the advocacy that's happening in the world, the scholarship that's happening on the issue. And then to me, it's a beautiful thing when you can get voices in a room who know a subject really, really well. It's amazing the things that can happen. And I think that type of think tank, and a think tank across all of those policy pillars, will really give us a chance to amplify our voices and to display how much of a grassroots led initiative this is, where it's the real organizations and the love warriors and the freedom fighters on the ground. So
Yes,
health justice for
exactly. For
all.
all, exactly.
Oh, Sister Coty.
Oh, thank you. Because I was like, oh, I don't want to try. I'm not going to get it right. I don't want to disrespect anybody's name. I'm going to get it wrong. I know I'm going to get it wrong. I do want to talk about go back to a subject that I know we talked about at the beginning. This past election, 95 up to 95 million people estimated didn't even bother to show up. Just said, you know what, I'm tired. What is it that you think that, and I'm saying we because I consider myself in the Justice for All family now. I've just
Yes.
made myself a family member. What is it that you think that we should do to reach out to those voters that are just like, I don't care anymore?
Man, it's multifold. When we're talking about our youngest amongst those voters who haven't even been around long enough to be disengaged, but just see the system is broken, so they don't even engage. What we're hearing a lot from them is education without manipulation. So we are working on some education initiatives with our Wisconsin delegation. Some folks, some educators up there working collectively to be able to inform people without necessarily trying to adapt our policy, our platform, but just how do I engage in the process? How do I register to vote? What does it mean to be a delegate or an elector? Any of those things that are a part of this sort of confusing system, this ceremonial pomp and circumstance system that we go through to make simple decisions. I think the other part about that is getting on the ground. I think if you want people to care again, you have to show them that you care about them. And I think part of that is going to be going to where those people are and, talking to them. A lot of folks talk about Dr. West and Tavis Smiley during the Poor People's Tour. And I heard that throughout the campaign, how many folks in the Appalachians and in Northern California and places that just don't get visited, how impacted they were just because he came up there to talk to them. And I think that if we start, a lot of people are disengaged because they feel like their voice doesn't matter, and there's not, in many ways they have good reason to think so. They, um, for all of our protests and pushing, it's hard to see progress in real time. So I think it's just about reconnecting again. It's become so commercial. It's become so um, politics are no longer about people. It's more so about how much you can push in propaganda. And I think if we just start reconnecting with people again, then we can re-engage them. We can touch them because, like you said, there's only those who are still in. 95 million folks say I don't even want to be a part of it. And I think the only way that you get those people in is that you remind them or reassure them, I should say, that their voice matters, and then actually listen to that voice.
Um, in terms of leadership, you said
Mm.
that there's going to be a chair, like once this all gets completed, is there going to be a single chair or two co-chairs?
Again, to be decided in that room. What I had proposed originally was a co-chair model. And then I would hope that we would take that same model and delineate it throughout our state and regional bodies so that one, just for continuity of leadership, should someone not be able to make a meeting, but also just to democratize, any necessary procedural authority that might sit in the chair, um, with a co-equal counterpart.
Do you imagine that? Well, let me backtrack this question. Do you said that the power of the party is going to come from the local level?
Hmm.
How many estimate? You don't have to. I don't know if you know the exact number. How many justice for all parties do you think there are for not the big party, but like the state parties? Do you think are forming? Like, in other words,
Um,
does Arizona have one? Does Georgia have one? Does Idaho have one? Does
so it's twofold. If I said official, I'd say maybe like a dozen. If I said bodies, um, of groups of people that either reach for party status and didn't get it, or achieve party status but didn't get the 2% necessary to keep that status, then you can probably expand that to another 25. And then if you bring in the third parties that gave us ballot access that have, for the most part, expressed interest in some type of affiliation or association with us moving forward, you can easily take that to 35, 40. So I always say, all the parts are there. It's just about assembling them. And, what a lot of people don't know is that we have like this sleeping beast, if you will, and that when the button turns on and it stands up, it'll be like too late for the opposition of the duopoly or anyone else. But we really do have a great setup and many nodes that are just waiting to activate. Even those who haven't been involved in the steering committee, I haven't seen much of the Wisconsin group there, but they're actively working on an education initiative for the group. And, there's other groups who are working. I know Texas regionally in Houston and then up in DFW are working. Um, I know Washington State is meeting. Um, yeah, so I could rip off the name of different places. I know Timothy and the folks down on the Natural Law Party in Florida have plans. So there's a lot to be had, and we'll see by summer. You asked about the next 6 months or so. We'll see a tremendous transformation and beautification of the system. I'm assured.
will we get a different website address?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. We already own the domains. Honestly, David is just waiting on some information from me to build the preliminary site, but we're already in the process of building a site. We're also building an app so we can replace Nation Builder and its absorbent cost at times. So we're building out different systems to ensure long-term goals. But yeah, a new website is coming. I wanted it by today, but I was delayed in getting that done. So my hope over the next week or so, especially by the 17th, we can have a Justice for All sort of dedicated site.
And something I always like to talk about, that's it's party it is party related. I always think it's good for us to be, how can I say this? I don't To be proactive instead of reactive,
Mhm.
right? What I would hate to happen, and I'm pretty sure it won't, based off of what you told me, is that we just sit around and we just wait for 2028
No.
to no, that's what I said. That's what I don't want, because what I often hear when I say, I don't vote Democrat and I don't vote Republican is, well, where do you all go at when there's no election? Like, where do you go at? Why aren't you appearing? And I always say, we are appearing, but the mainstream media isn't going to tell you about it. Talk about, how do you get past that point? That's the one thing that I could not figure out during petition campaign. I couldn't figure out how to get past that whole, you're just giving the election to X, Y, well, in this case, Trump. And I always said, well, you want me to support Harris? I can't. But I wish I was a better communicator, because I can never say what it is I want to say.
Well, I mean, I reject the very premise that, you know, that your vote should go between one of the two parties. Like
Okay,
it's
I'm going to interrupt you. I didn't mean to do this.
yeah,
This is the dumbest
please.
idea that I've ever heard. This idea right here is dumb. This is a
No, I
dumb
like it.
idea. Dumb, dumb. No, I
I
will
like it.
not. I will not. I will not.
The gentle lady, the honorable Congresswoman from Indiana.
The district I am in, my congressman actually has the exact same last name as I do.
See, right. It'd be an easy switch
No,
out.
no, he owns it. It's
Tracy can be one
his.
of those first federal candidates that we run.
Absolutely, positively not. That is
Tracy,
what.
Tracy,
No
Tracy,
way, no
Tracy,
way,
Tracy,
absolutely not.
Tracy.
No, I'd rather run for governor, which I'm not running. I'm not running for any office, period. But no, that's
You
just
can be
not
the
going to happen.
executive. How do we move from there? One, like I said, I reject that premise that somehow I have to give my vote to either the Democrats or the Republicans. Like, I think
Because
we
they've done so much to earn it, right? I mean,
that's the other part about it too. Yeah.
because they supported genocide, um, gentrification, bad education. Oh yeah, they're hitting it out the park. I don't know why I wouldn't.
No, it's this notion that like our lives are somehow better under one group versus the other. And like we have this illusion, that we play under that somehow they aren't friends or making these decisions in conjunction one another, or Bush orders the cages and Obama builds the cages and Trump uses the cages and Biden continues to use the cages, and who do you blame for it at that point? That's why I call them a uniparty, right? Because one leg can
Oh
advance
boy, you
certain
mentioned the
cause.
cages. I mentioned on another podcast that Biden was putting children in cages, and you would have thought I said that Biden was Hitler. Where did you get that? I'm like, it's a fact. It's
It is a
called a
fact.
fact.
It is.
Children are in cages. You tell
Yeah,
me
it
what
is a
has
fact.
changed. I'm like,
No.
I don't know what to tell you. You're
And they're
it's
building private prisons despite the ones that they have throughout the country that are empty. As it is, I know there's one being built near Pine Bluff right now. What I call will be concentration camps, in large part. And so, you know, to your point about being proactive, that's why we're here. That's why we're starting. That's why we're doing this now. That's why we're looking to unify before, it is too late, before we're on the back end of history trying to then form and organize. No, I said November 6th, November 7th, November 8th because I never took off. I never stopped working towards whatever this is going to be. Within 2 days of us having the paperwork filed with the FEC, we set our first meeting to start sitting a steering committee. Like, it has always been about forward movement. Empire marches on, and so do we. Like, there is no moment to take a break. And right now it's just about bullying the dejected. But you know what? One thing about the antics over the last 2 weeks and over these first 100 days, especially, is that it's going to light a fire under people of complacency. And there are a lot of folks through this election who have been disabused of the fantasy of being protected by the Democrats. And there are a lot of folks who are hoping for some type of utopia under Trump, who are seeing the real world consequences. When we talk about federal aid being cut, we're talking about 70% of that federal aid going to white Americans, the majority of which voted for Trump and that side. So while it does affect others, and some others disproportionately more, but you know eh, these effects are being felt across the country.
Mhm.
This is not just somebody receiving SNAP benefits. This includes the man who was complaining because him and his wife moved across country because she was to take a job as a VA nurse, and now that offer has been rescinded because of his freeze on hiring. Like, this is going to have a real world impact on real people. You talk about bills and gas prices, 25% tariffs on both Canada and Mexico, 10% on China is going to increase those bills significantly. And not only that, it's only going to further solidify our counterparts around the world's desire to have an alternative to the dollar, which BRICS is looking as a strong competitor too. So ultimately, that too will come back to affect the individual American voter, person,
But it
citizen.
was racism and sexism. That's why I never get
No,
her name right, but I feel like when you kill Gazan Palestinians, I don't have to get your name right. I'm under no responsibility to get your name right. Only when I respect you and like value you. So
I
basically,
never. Now, one thing, and
no,
I
it was
never.
racism and sexism. That's why she lost. Not her
No,
bad policies, not her support
no.
of
I think it
Israel.
was the fact that I think the main thing was that, one, they were already losing. So,
Exactly.
she was thrown in there to try to save what they felt was already a losing thing from Biden's debate performance. Two,
Oh, that
up
was
until
terrible.
she took over, the vice presidency had been seen as a joke throughout history. No one ever really credited the vice president with what happens in the administration. You have a few administrations like Bush Cheney. But so I never really held the Biden policies against her. I know the vice presidency is oftentimes more of a ceremonial position. There are many articles from the beginning of that campaign that showed how she felt she was being treated insignificantly and not necessarily a part of those conversations. So, but that's her team. She wrote on that team. So I never
Yeah, she
held it
rode with
against her
them. She chose
personally.
to be with them. She could have
But I
left.
think, but
She could.
irrespective of whether it's Vice President Harris or it's President Trump, they're all puppets. They're all just
That's
the
true.
face of an empire. It doesn't really matter who's in the seat. No one thinks that Trump is writing any of these freaking executive orders, that he even understands the complexities of what it is to craft an executive order or a bill, or any of these things. No one's under the illusion that he is aware of how these things are working, but he has people around him who are pushing an agenda, just like with the federal judges during his first term. And he'll be a useful idiot in that way. But in the same breath, even if it was VP Harris, it might look different, but it would be the same controllers and those who control the party, the donor class that controls the party, in this case, the technocrats that control the country right now.
Yeah.
But it has always been that way. Trump told them that in his earlier debates, that it was guys like me writing you guys checks that ultimately make the decisions, not the individual voters. And so that's what we've come to challenge. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
That's why
And we
justice is here.
absolutely. So we had some comments in the comment section. I'm going to get to. Um, oh, so Nelson is responding to someone that asked him, does he know of anybody that could run? And he says, I personally don't, but we need to identify those who have raising the FICA cap in their agenda, or get behind them. He's talking about the Social Security and how it's going to be insecure. Rue, by the way, says, no, it's still a dumb idea. Yes, here's something we need to talk. Yes, now, who do they plan to replace FEMA with? Because now they want to get rid of FEMA camps. If all the illegals are deported, let's see. So he's just nominating everybody except for Rue, by the way, 2026. That's the only person he hasn't nominated. Okay, brother Israel, what does it look like if a civil war breaks out due to the unjust policies during the next 3 years? That's a question I would like to hear your answer to.
What does it look like?
And what can we do about it? Or can we even avoid this?
Well, it can definitely be avoided. I think that's the course of human history, that we always have the choice in where it is that we go. However, I think that us being a part of a legacy, us being a moment within a movement, that movement sometimes came with armed struggle. That movement, Mother Harriet carried a weapon, didn't she? So that movement sometimes came with being able to stand up, being able to fight, being willing to go to jail, being willing to die for those things that you believe in. And so if it comes down to a point where we're now challenging the 14th and 13th Amendment, there's an old Negro spiritual that says, before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. So I refuse to die in peace.
Absolutely. Final question, because boy, if I had taken up a lot of your time. If someone out there is listening and they want to get a hold, they want to be a part of the Justice for All party, whether it's starting one locally, whether it's connecting to the national campaign, what do they need to do?
You can always still go to cornellwest2024.com/join. Also, you can email me at Israel, Israel, at cornellwest2024.com. We have new email addresses and rebranding for the website that's coming in, but that'll be the best way to reach me now. And then if you're not connected to the Slack, let me know or reach out to someone that you know in the community to join there. But we meet every Saturdays now at 4 p.m. Eastern, normally 4 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern. That's where the real decisions are made. So if you want your voice heard, you want to be a part of it, you want to be a part of that movement, it'd be great to join in that room. But even if you say, hey, I don't really care about that portion, I'm just more so of a person who wants to knock on doors and do some local organizing, there's a place for you too. So regional groups are necessary. Folks who want to help steer the rules and do those things are necessary. Folks who want to host fundraisers or host information sessions, educational sessions, all of those things are needed. So there's the harvest is plenty. So we just need as many workers as we can get.
Absolutely. So I'm going to let Nelson have the last word. They want us to focus on Democrats and Republicans to keep us fighting among ourselves, while both are the same under the corrupt empire, if I learn how to read. Everybody, thank you 20,000 times. Thank you for joining us on this first episode of Justice is Here podcast. I look forward to future episodes. I'm just going to give you one final assignment. Well, a couple. First of all, subscribe to this page. Please subscribe. Share this with your friends. Share this with your frenemies, your cousin, that one you haven't talked to in about 5 years, that one that you don't like, but you just put up with them anyway. Just share this with as many people as you can. And sometime within the next hour, if you could all go back and put your comments in the comment section. And the reason I say that is because if we can get comments in the algorithm, That means that this show will be suggested by YouTube to a wider audience. So that's the assignment I'm going to always lead off with about an hour from now. Go back to the comment section, even if you want to say Tracy for Congress 2026, which I'm not running. If you want to just say hi, if you want to put a link in, just do that, and that helps us to get out to more people. The goal is to get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can, because as Israel has stated, as Dr. West has stated, this is a moment in a movement. I'm going to take everybody down. I'm going to take us down, do the outro, and remember, in terms of the Saturday show, because I am at the Justice for All committee meeting, will be on at 2:00. Or I may think about it. I may come back on at 9:30 in the morning, because I'm also directing our church's Easter play. So Saturdays, they're getting packed. They're getting packed, but that's okay. Because idle hands or the devil's workshop. But definitely, if 1 hour after the show, put your comments in the comment section so that YouTube can suggest this. I'm going to take us down, do the outro. We got a couple last comments. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. See you all next Saturday. I'm going to take us down and do the outro.